Forget retro gaming goodness.
Welcome, fellow adventurers, and join me, Bastish B, as I'll be exploring classic RPGs from the 8 and 16-bit generations, both console and computer, whether it be high fantasy or lo-fi sci-fi. All roads will eventually lead to Tales of a Dungeon Basher. And on today's episode, we're going to dive back to 1984 and 88 respectively and look at a two-part RPG series, aka Questron 1 and 2, published by SSI on the Commodore 64, and delve behind the scenes and revisit these forgotten role-playing adventures. 1984 was a turning point for software house SSI, Strategic Simulations Incorporated. Since their inception in 1979, they'd always made and become synonymous with mostly war-based strategy simulators and tactical games, for the most part historically based with the occasional dip into sci-fi themes. But by 1984 they greenlit their first full-on fantasy RPG called Questron. Little did they know the massive impact it would have on the company going forward. In the first episode of this series, we looked at the brilliant late 80s RPG called The Legend of Black Silver, a forgotten to time C64 gem that got passed over by most, due mostly to the distributor at the time, Epyx's downfall, leaving the game with almost no marketing and distribution. That may have been the end of the brothers duo who made it, but in 1984, under Charles and John Doherty's first release, Questron, the designers and programmer released an RPG that would not only change their trajectory, but also SSI themselves. The game was a very traditional RPG that definitely owed a lot of inspiration to the super popular Ultima series at the time. When the demo was shown at a trade show by the original distributor Broderbund, Ultima creator Richard Garriott apparently saw it and was pretty upset. It is, in all honesty, an Ultima clone upon first look, but there's definitely more going on that separates these series apart. However, the story has never been fully made 100% clear, but reading between the lines, it seems that the second distributor that signed up, SSI, to avoid any sort of lawsuit action, gave Richard a credit on the title page of the game. It is not known for sure if any money was exchanged though. Yaz co-creator Chuck Doherty himself speaking on the situation. One of my regrets was never calling Richard to talk about it, but bear in mind he was a big name. I was a nobody living disconnected in the Midwest, and Broderbund and SSI were telling me that he was pissed. I had no idea what to say to him. With the potential legal issues aside, the brothers went about completing the game for its 1984 release. The story involves you as a lowly peasant who manages to kill a ruthless monster. The king then names you their champion and tasks you with seeking out and destroying the wizard Mantor, who is using the Book of Evil Magic to conjure up monsters all over the land and drum up chaos. Your main quest is to stop him and destroy the book forever. The game jumps between three major viewpoints. The overhead tile-based world view, which is no doubt what Garriott saw for the demo, where you roam around the map looking for your next town or location to enter. This is also where the main combat takes place as you encounter monsters. It's turn-based, using a command list on the left side of the screen. The game, however, does remember your last input, so quick battles can take place if you just want to kill something really quickly. And like all the brothers games, experience is not gained from killing cannon fodder beasties. You only receive items or loot. Actual experience is mostly gained from completing story-based quests. When entering towns, you get a full static aerial view of the location, making it very easy to see all the shops which you can supply up with weapons, armor, there's casinos, and food supply stores, as you need this to survive. Every few steps on the overworld map knock some of your food supplies down. Special important locations also offer a closer Ultima-style view of the interiors for you to explore as well. The last major view shift is for the wire-based 3D dungeon sequence, which is one of the highlights of the game. Yeah, you navigate massive mazes, looting and fighting creatures in turn-based style. It's just simply a real pity that these sequences only appear much later in the game, as most people probably never even got to see them. Like mentioned earlier, experience is mostly gained from completing the main quests, but there's also a handful of other unorthodox by RPG trope standards ways of getting experience, such as a skeet shooting minigame that upgrades your dexterity, currency, and cold hard cash can be used to buy holy water points in cathedrals to upgrade your hit points. So essentially, cash is king, and you need it for pretty much everything from bribing people for information, supplies, and obviously in the 3 different gambling mini-games which you can use at casinos, which is a really good way to earn money very quickly, as the odds of winning are usually pretty good. Another thing that makes this game kind of unique is that you don't actually create a character, you simply name them, and there is no party. It's simply you against everything, which makes it, even though it was made in 1984, move at a really quick pace, as there is minimal inventory management, and the entire game is controllable by a joystick, which had to be a first, especially for this genre that was absolutely obsessed with using every key on a keyboard to make it function. SSR's big gamble paid off in the end though. Landing in 1984, it garnered great reviews, with the April 86 issue of Zap 64 giving it a 91% overall, with the game receiving its coveted Sizzler award. The game ended up selling over 35,000 copies in North America alone, which was triple what one of their strategy titles took in back then, and would eventually help SSR secure the coveted Dungeons & Dragons license over Electronic Arts and usher in the age of the gold box classics. Not bad for a game that was initially considered an Ultima clone.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Between 1984 and 88, the brothers formed Quest Software, their own company, and made a deal with Electronic Arts for their next game, Legacy of the Ancients, a game that I will no doubt cover here in the future. By 1988 though, SSR had the D&D license, and had Westwood Studios helping out create some of those games. The brothers also made a deal with them to make the inevitable sequel, Questron 2. The information on its making is pretty thin like the first game, but it seems like both Chuck and John simply delivered the design and overall story for the game and were completely hands-off in its programming or creating, with Westwood Studios handling the rest, which resulted in a decent but kind of forgettable sequel. The story pretty much takes place right after the end of the first game, as you this time get sent back in time to destroy the 6 evil sorcerers who were responsible for making the original Book of Evil Magic. Questron 2 obviously looks way better than the original, as it is now running on the brothers' Legacy of the Ancients engine, which boosts the graphics detail and makes the FPS dungeons full sprite based, with nifty maps as well, making them easier to navigate, and also pop up much earlier in the game, as they are hidden all over the place. Definitely make sure to search those cathedrals well. It follows the 3 views aspect of the previous game as well, with the overall map with its main turn-based battles. Again, no experience is gained here, just loot. Cash again is king for gameplay, and governs pretty much everything in this game. Again, no character creation besides your name, and no extra party members, which is a little bit of a shame, especially for a sequel. The zoomed in look of the towns though this time is very disorientating, with no particular borders or direction to define you entering or leaving towns. It makes it very hard to navigate. The Legend of Black Silver actually solved this and did it way better, but yeah, it's just a bit messy. Towns are hubs for weapons, armor, info, supplies, and magic to purchase. As in the first, there are also multiple gambling minigames including blackjack, wizard's ball, and more. Its positives is the visual upgrade and the ease of play, as it's fully joystick driven just like the original game, but almost feels like a remake more than a new game in retrospect. It launched to mostly positive reviews, with Zap 64 in the August 88 issue giving it an 81% overall, although citing the lack of anything really new. It was another RPG hit for the company, selling roughly 16,000 more copies than the original, but was definitely forgotten a lot quicker. It's a solid RPG, don't get me wrong, but it's just way too similar in design to the original for it to be ultimately memorable. It did also mark the end of the series, as Dungeons & Dragons Mania pretty much engulfed SSR Games' output for the next couple of years. If you're curious and like old school RPGs, these are both very easy to play gameplay wise and are fun variations on the Ultima style, and are extremely accessible for C64 old school RPGs.